The structure of Buddhism I built for myself was wrong, and it had to be rebuilt from the beginning. I realized that I need to learn to be quiet, which goes through a process of uncomfortableness. And I said to them, in truth, I'm not going to be a musician. And they said, why? And I said to them, I decided it. I want to be happy.
Hello again, Kelsang Sherab. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Where are you from?
Well, I'm from Israel. I grew up in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in London. Mm-hmm. As I always like to say, the Dharma Protector sneezed when I was in Nevada, and I was born in a place that was very meaningful because as a result of having been born in London, I have a British passport, mm-hmm. which later in my story becomes very, very, very helpful. So then I grew up in Jerusalem, and then we moved to Tel Aviv. And then when I finished my army, I left Israel and started traveling.
So the army is obligatory.
Yes.
In Israel.
So in Israel,
right?
Every boy and a girl, when they reach the age of 18, everybody has to go to the army. And the army does tests, and it kind of like allocates, it kind of like it works out what's best, how best to use you. Mm-hmm. But because I was a musician, and I was a good musician, and so the army has also like spots for good athletes, good musicians, good mm-hmm. artists, good writers, good mm-hmm. Computer programmers and things like that. So I was allocated to the Air Force Band, which was a really, really good place to be for musicians. Mm-hmm. We worked with the greatest artists of Israel at the time, and so yeah, it was 3 years of very interesting experiences. And when the army finished, much more into music even then in Holland when I moved to, and then found Buddhism. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In Holland?
In Holland, yeah, like proper finding Buddhism.
What made you seek it out?
I suppose at the time I didn't know it. It's later on, but there was a point that I was good enough musician, and I was, I'm sure if I was putting a little bit more effort or just a bit more time, a bit more networking as well, because I could have been a relatively good working musician, but something was not enough. Something, I used to listen to people like Jaco Pastorius or, Keith Jarrett. I don't know if you know these names, mm-hmm. but
yeah,
of course, you're American. And I remember once the sunset was just amazing, and I was on my bike cycling, listening to Jaco Pastorius, and I was thinking to myself, the guy is just true to himself. He's just manifesting himself, and whatever you hear, which is technically sounds impossible, it's just him. Mm-hmm. And then the same with Keith Jarrett. I mean, Keith Jarrett is amazing how he listened. The people used to say his playing is in the silences. And that started really grabbing me, and I began to realize that my musicmanship, technically okay, like good, but musicmanship, like I don't know how to say it, core something is missing. And I think that, and I didn't know how to cut through that. There's a type of people, and I'm probably one of them, who don't actually understand that they are not very happy or that something is missing. Mm-hmm. That even though they don't understand it kind of like, it's like a murmur inside themselves, and they don't really. So I think I just had that murmur. I was just not happy. But, if you see me from the outside, I was very happy, smiling, whatever, blah, blah, everything is fine, so to speak. But and so that whatever was inside me just pushed me to look.
You were looking for a teacher, would you say?
When I was 14, somebody in Sea Scouts, we were having some problem, and I was saying some things, and somebody in my Sea Scouts when I was 14, somebody said to me, pointed and said, "You're looking for a guru." And then so I didn't know that I was looking for a guru. I know, like. I remember the conversation. We're just eating hummus, and the guy was saying, "You're looking for a guru." I don't remember even what the conversation was about.
Did you know what that meant?
No, I mean, I had a friend in a pub, a very, very, very busy pub in Tel Aviv that I worked in. And he, one day, called me. It was 8 o'clock in the morning after I worked the whole night. And he called me and then he said, "You think you're a hotshot, aren't you?" I was... Because I was friendly. I was a good barman. People knew me, and I was young as well. And it was, anyway. So as said, go to the cemetery. Under every stone that you see there is somebody who thought that the world will stop when they will die. It will never happen in the past. It never happened in the past. It never happens now, and it will never happen in the future. That's all he had to tell me. I mean, what's that?
Wow.
I know. That guy was still in there, and he said a couple of other things in my mind. I think myself, who was that guy? You know?
Mm-hmm. What did that do? What
that
impact did it have?
It just...
did it land?
It definitely landed, although I didn't know exactly how, but it changes you, with some of these... I think it probably started the very, very painful and long path that I had to learn of humility and to understand that however big I think I am, the reality is that soon I'm going to be the food for the worms kind of a thing, And I don't know why he said that, and he wasn't a particularly spiritual person or anything like that. And when I moved to Amsterdam after the motorcycle tour that me and my friend did, he took me to Amsterdam and he said to me, "You're now moving to Amsterdam, and you'll be exposed to everything. Before you move to Amsterdam, you have to make now a decision, a determination of where is your line.
Wow.
And you must never cross that line. So I don't care what is your line, but you make a line, and you must never make a determination never to cross that line." I mean, I remember the story. I remember we just entered into Amsterdam. We came from Antwerp. And I mean, that's for those of us who are in the Buddhist frame of mind. I mean, this is like an emanation of your guru, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Sending the feelers before he can appear to you.
That's moral discipline.
Yeah.
So you developed your code of ethics.
Yes,
yeah,
I
you
think
developed a code
through the help of some people in my life. There's really, and then you look backwards on those people and you think to yourself, especially with a Buddhist state of mind. Of course, if people who are not Buddhist, that might sound a little bit awkward to them, whatever. But if you believe that your guru has been there always for you and will always be there for you, then who are these people? Mm-hmm. And then one day I came back from school, from the conservatorium, and on my bicycle there was a leaflet, and with a line drawing of Buddha, and it said Buddhist teachings and meditations with again Kelsang Sherab. And I thought, great. And I took it home. I was living with my girlfriend at the time, and I left it on the table. And that must have been a Monday. And on a Tuesday, she was there. And I'll never forget the event, because she was there with her friend Iris, and the leaflet was here, and I was there, and it was sunny-ish and light just on the table. And they were talking about this leaflet, and I said, I think I don't want to go anywhere. I don't feel like it. And she was like, "But darling, you were looking for something for so long. Why don't you want to go?" I said, I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Anyway, I went.
Wow.
And it was because of her, because she really pushed me. And at the time, the teacher spoke Dutch with a very peculiar English accent. And not peculiar, but with an English accent. So, and my Dutch was not that good. And the teachings were, I do remember it was about love, but you know how, like the first teaching, you don't, but it was intense teaching, and intense in like that. And I just, when you listen to it and it's not your language and it's in an accent even that is a little bit difficult, but of course, kudos to the teacher because he chose to speak the language of it's amazing. It's very hard work. But You want the whole story? So I remember I went out of that place when the class finished, and I was blown away. I was like, that's it. That's it. Even though I probably didn't understand 90% of it, I knew that that's it. Like, no doubt in my mind.
What blew you away?
I can't say.
Just the energy?
Just the energy, just something, But I remember the books as well when I came in. And the titles, Clear Light of Bliss, Tantric Grounds and Paths, and it was the more. It wasn't the first edition, but it was the edition with the Vajras and the blue and Vajradhara on there, and those books always like really pulled me in. Just the cover always pulled me in. I don't know why. It's just karma, isn't it? But I knew it was that. I knew it was that, and I bought Introduction to Buddhism. And then my girlfriend also came with me a little bit. And then it was interesting because we started getting a little bit... she said to me, don't you be competitive with me.
About Buddhism?
Yes. Which happens, can happen at least, especially if you're young and proud.
I'm going to get realizations first.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. I do more meditation than you.
I meditated for 8 hours.
Exactly.
How long did you meditate for? That's
yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
Virtuous competition with an edge.
But
Who got ordained first?
So, if you want to hear the whole story...
You come back, her head is shaved. You're like, ugh.
So then, after a while, we had some difficulties. And but you always have difficulties in relationship, and we worked them over because we were for a while together. But then she said to me once, she said, look, one day I don't want, she said actually, we're having a big row about something, and obviously just a minor thing, but it turns big, these things, aren't they? Nobody's faults other than young and ignorant minds,
Of course.
So she said to me, she said, because my line was, look, as long as I come home and I'm happy to see you, generally speaking, then that's fine. I don't see any need for anything else. You're beautiful. You're smart. You're everything. We're having a nice time together. Generally speaking, I'm happy to see you as long as you're happy to see me. But that time she said, you know something? One day we'll be together. We may even have kids together, and you'll decide that you want to get ordained. Since I don't want that to happen, you can go now.
Wow.
That's how I remember it. I haven't spoken to her about it since then, but that's what I remember. Now, when she said that, even though I wasn't planning, it's like that girl, that lady, that woman, she had some insight, and sometimes you don't see it from the outside, And so I said to her, okay. And then we separated, and I found myself...
She saw it in you.
Yeah, she did. She was, it was tough. By that time, actually, it was interesting. I stopped smoking because of her, because she was really, her parents were really nice people. I knew them. And then one time I used to smoke just normal cigarettes, and used to get regularly sick a few times a year, around November. And one time I got sick, and we went to visit her dad, her family. And afterwards, when we came back, I said, how's your folk doing? And she said, oh, Dad got really, really sick because it got it from you. And by that time, I already read the books, Bodhisattvas, Benefit of Others, Not Harming, etc. And I remember when she said this to me, I thought, that's it. My smoking caused me to be sick. Me being sick caused her dad to be sick. He never gets sick, and it was really tough for him. So I stopped smoking.
Wow. Just cold turkey?
Yeah. By that time, again, I'm kind of but by that time I started, there's another story. So, I separated from my girlfriend, and I started going a bit more regularly to the GP, general program classes. And then I started reading 2 books. One was called Joy for Path of Good Fortune, Venerable Geshe Kelsang Sherab.
Yes.
Okay. Completely hooked immediately,
Yeah.
Especially the section on Samsara. That was finally, I read it, and I thought to myself, finally, somebody is actually telling me what I know. I'm not saying it in any pride or that. It's not telling me what I know. Somebody is finally telling me the obvious.
The truth.
The truth, that's what I mean, yes. Finally, somebody is telling me the truth. And it's actually because he's telling me the truth, I can trust him because he's telling me the truth. He's not trying to hide it or mask it in any way. It's all, all the sections on birth, aging, sickness, death, losing the things we like, coming across, never having any satisfaction. Yes. I mean, that began, you asked me earlier on so I didn't know that, but as I started reading it, that's my problem.
Yeah. If you had to define samsara, what would your definition be?
One of two, if you don't mind. Sorrow, all-pervasive sorrow, and discontent. So choose. Like that a thorn in the heart kind of a thing. Which then will probably encompass both. It's both painful, it's always painful. And it's pain that sorrow is interesting, isn't it? Because Buddha is the one who's going beyond sorrow. Sorrow is an interesting word. Obviously, I'm not native English, but sorrow, there's something very deep into it, isn't it? It's kind of like it goes beyond the superficial stuff that pain and suffering sometimes has. Sorrow, it's deep, isn't it? And discontent. I mean,
when's the last time you experienced real, deep sorrow?
My mom passed away 2 months ago, and it has revealed. So it's a process. Grieving is a process, as Billy Crystal says in Analyze This Too. But serious, it's a process, and I'm still working through it and with it. I'm not in a hurry because it's, as Shantideva says, what is it? Furthermore, suffering has good qualities, and and for those who are interested in spiritual development, we know that painful experiences are actually not necessarily a problem. They can be a great inner spiritual guide. So, so the sorrow is, obviously the loss. There's a person who has loved me and my sister in a way that no one except my guru will ever, So that's sorrow. But it was interesting through that during this process. What's interesting is that I started thinking of my mom as the whole person that she is, not just my mom. Because when we think mom, it's just one slice of a person, but she was also a partner, and she was also a colleague, and she was also a daughter and a sister, and she was many, many, many things, and she had her own life unfolding, like she was a person more than just a mother. And it forced me to start thinking about her life as a whole, and that actually I felt for her, and obviously great appreciation, because she has been a fantastic mother both to me and my sister, unyielding, always wanting the best for us, always accepting all our life choices. And me and my sister made life choices, and my mom is not her life choices. It wasn't easy, and then she carried on. It's in this thing. But thinking of her as a person and seeing how she evolved and with her, because she's of that age, 80. She died 82, and it's a whole generation all over the world that moved after the Second World War, and how the world kind of there was an arc of hope, and then in the last couple of decades, the arc of hope is turned into, what is this world? And in that sense, feeling sorrow for her, because she was very unhappy about that, because she thought that the world could go into beautiful places, etc. So it's a sorrow both for myself, for the loss of my mom, but also for the person who loved me and who had their own she died in a sense of frustration, because she was very idealistic, and the last, 10, 15 years of the world didn't agree with her. So it's sad, isn't it? To see a person, that famous sentence, isn't it? Samsara, all our dreams are broken at the end. Impermanence spares nothing and no one.
What'd she think of your ordination when you made that decision?
With the ordination by that time, because that was, I wanted to get ordained in 1999. That didn't work. But by the time I got ordained, and I said to her, look, I think I'm going to get ordained now. She said, well, okay, good luck. By that time, it was slightly easier because my sister had a child. So she had a grandchild.
Okay,
So
you were off the hook.
I was off the hook, although you're never off the hook because you're the boy and you're the first one.
Oh, boy.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, but in my mind, I was off the hook, so... But then, as I became, resident teacher and things like that, and she could tell her friend, at least he's doing something. Because before that, it was just, I don't know, he lives in a Buddhist community somewhere. And
where was that?
That was the best place in the world, Madhyamaka Center. Yeah.
What's it like?
I don't know now, but I'm sure, Geshe-la's blessings in that place. But that place is amazing. It's like every time I see it in my mind, it's like thinking the publicity, they call it a Georgian mansion. And, it's like, it's beautiful. It's sandstone and, yeah. And so when I came there...
This is after you split with the...
Yeah,
girlfriend.
by that time I already lived. We split in March '97, and I still lived 2.5 years in Amsterdam until. So basically, I left. I finished when I came to one before my last exam in the conservatorium. I passed it, but not very well. But I passed it, and then they said to me something, and I said to them, and to the panel, I said to them, and they said something about it, and I said, but it's fine, but. In truth, I'm not going to be a musician. And they said, why? And I said to them, I decided I want to be happy. And I think I'm going to go in the Buddhist path. And I remember the guy, his name was Marcel Karaman, I think. And he went just like this, and he said, like, oh no, we lost another one. That's how it was.
You said it to the panel after you just passed.
Yes. Yeah.
And got your certificate after all of that.
No, it wasn't. It was one exam before the certification. I told him,
but
look,
you were so close.
Yeah, and I did the other exam I did, but I went to all the way through the last year. It was only because Kelsang Sherab told me, you started, you have to finish.
Yeah.
And it was really good. And when young people come now, this is advice I always give them. So then I finished that, and I did my last, I did a concert, and many people came, and it was really nice. And after that, I never played bass guitar again, because I discovered that really what I am is I'm a meditator. I'm not a musician. And the impact I could see, so I realized there's something really, really powerful. And then I started reading, well, you can do this meditation and improve yourself as a musician. You can do this meditation and improve yourself as a human being and become an enlightened being. That's why the end of music came.
Yeah.
You get it?
Limited music was you realized there was a limit.
After that event, after that massive gig that I did, it was really nice and everything. I actually went to visit my dad in Los Angeles, and
my part of the world.
Yes, and when I was literally on the luggage, waiting for my friend to come and pick me up to the airport. My friend was also my boss. We worked together, and I was just about to return to him the first cell phone that I had. I was just about. I got a phone call, and this woman saying, "I got your name from such and such person. We have a very successful band. We want you to come and play bass for us." And I said to her, "Look, sorry, I'm going."
Was that a test? You think?
I think it must have been a test. Literally, on the way to the car that is going to take me to the airport, and this woman got it from a person who used to be my teacher. They got my number, and they were a very busy band. They wanted me as a bass player, and I said sorry. And then I went and been with my dad. And
wow.
Yes, I've been 3 months in LA. And it was the toughest 3 months of my life because I didn't behave very Buddhist-like. I thought I was a Buddhist. I thought I was behave, but anyway, so it created a lot of massive problems with my dad. Massive.
Well, they say if you think you have spiritual realizations, you should go spend time with your family.
Yes.
Spend 2 weeks with your family, and we'll see how Buddhist you are.
Interestingly enough, one of the things that I discovered when I made advancement it was actually mainly with my mom. usually I used to go home, and within a couple of days we'd have a fight. Mm-hmm. That's normal, isn't it? But as the years have passed, suddenly I realized, actually, it takes a week before we have a fight. And then after a while, I realized we haven't had a fight.
Mm.
You know? But anyway, those particular months, they were tough because because my dad it was 99. It was after 96 with all kind of stuff, and he heard all kind of things, and he was worried about me, and my behavior was not causing him any. My behavior caused him more reasons for concern, you know. Anyway, it went from bad to worse, and we would argue every night. He was shooting the Power Rangers those days, and he would come back from filming, and we would just like argue and argue and argue and argue and argue. And after 3 months, I mean, at that time, Gen Lekma was really my wall, kind of like really. But I was wrong all that.
Because she was the teacher in Los Angeles.
Yeah, kind of Kapala Center at the time. She was really good to me, and I was wrong. I was at the wrong. I behaved totally incorrectly, but I only know it now. Mm-hmm. Oh, I knew that later on. I remember when I finally flew back from LA. Well, I just stopped in New York with a friend, and then flew back to Amsterdam. And I was just totally, like deflated to the -10. I don't know. And it was like that few days. And I thought to myself, yeah, it's probably... there were two things that came to me suddenly. Once on the bike, I was just cycling, and I suddenly realized this was actually my Dharma Protector. This whole thing was emanation. Why? Because the structure of Buddhism I built for myself was wrong. And so it had to be
leveled,
and take the foundations out, and it had to be rebuilt from the beginning. Wow! I know that was really. I remember that when I had that, this is the Dharma Protector protecting me for the future. Because if I had with the inclinations that I already started building, if I carried on with that, it would be like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I would finally just, I just went in the wrong direction. And it had to be corrected, and it was. I see it like that. Through my dad, it was really wrathful, man. It was 3 wrathful months, Then I moved to my Jamaica Center.
You're lucky. You realize that, because that is the way for many people, and they never realize it.
Yeah. I share this story often with my students. I say to them, look, it's all fine, sometimes we just need to... And I had it a couple of times since then, not as severe, but a couple of times that I just felt like, right, the Dharma Protector is now telling me you need to start afresh because something is wrong. Start. And once you get used to it, and it's never beginning, because you already... Now you know what not to do.
Which is as important as knowing what to do.
Exactly.
Sometimes we have to make our own mistakes to learn. Obviously, it's ideal to learn from other people's mistakes, yes. Like cautionary tales, like, mental note, don't do that. But sometimes we have to make our own to really make that deep shift in our own mind. And we can't be told, Because even if we can't be told.
Exactly, because you may be told, but you don't get it.
Listen, even if a waiter comes up to you and tells you exactly what you need to do, doesn't mean you're ready. Sometimes we're not ready to hear it. We have to learn the hard way.
Exactly.
Can you just talk a little bit about what you mean when you say Dharma Protector? Because you've said that a few times now.
All right. Yeah. So obviously, as Buddhists, we believe that there are enlightened beings. And enlightened beings can... Sometimes you can think of an enlightened being as unlimited. In other words, that's a being who has brought their potential to full fruition. And then, because they became enlightened out of compassion for each and every living being, they work for the benefit of each and every living being. So this is kind of like just basic Buddhist view. This is how we take it to be. Well, if you established all of these things in your mind, then you can understand, all right, enlightened beings right now, even though I have no clue how, they're doing things to liberate, to help me to liberate and to become enlightened myself. Then they do all kind of things. So sometimes they manifest themselves as incarnated teachers. So for example, when Geshe Kelsang, so we can say as I see him as an enlightened being who what he does, the role that he took upon himself is to guide us and to give us. And then what protectors do, and you have many Dharma protectors. You have a variety of Mahakalas, and of course you have Dorje Shugden, which is my protector. Is an enlightened being who makes sure that you have the right conditions for your inner realizations, to those that you've created, to be protected and to grow. And if you're going in a little bit wrong direction, their job is to help you to find
course correct.
Yes, exactly. And it comes in all sorts of ways. And once you start working with this idea that there are benevolent beings who the only, like your mother, like my mother, really take that as the only thing they want for you, which is really hard nowadays for people to believe that there can exist such a person who they cannot think of anything other than benefiting everyone. But anyway, once you can bring your mind to accept that, then you understand the Dharma Protector. And of course, Geshe Kelsang, and as a long line of Gelugpa tradition masters is explaining to us, Dorje Shugden is the Dharma Protector, it's the Guru, Idam, and Protector. When I work with the Dharma Protector, then there's no problems.
How do you develop that kind of faith? Because you can't see.
It's really tough.
And that trust.
It's really tough. I mean, it's not tough. It's just you have to be willing to go out of your comfort zone for a while. Also, you have to meditate, because what will happen is, and it happened to all of us, we meditated and we had some experiences that created a shift in our view, just something. Then that shift will allow you to begin to believe beyond, and that's coming out of your comfort zone. But because you'll have an inner experience that will tell you, oh, now that's interesting. If I have this inner experience, it's almost like a proof that something bigger. And if you extrapolate, you augment it, you imagine it. Okay, if this little experience, but now let's take it into infinity, kind of a thing.
I don't think people know how to meditate. I don't think people understand how to meditate.
Absolutely. The section on what is meditation and joyful path of good fortune.
Yeah, so good.
You have to...
Page 89.
Thank you very much. That's
Read
what I tell
people.
them. Yes.
So clear.
We use the word meditation, acquainting the mind with virtue, constantly and thoroughly. That's it. And if you think carefully about this definition, again, the kindness of Jetsun Kappa, kindness of the lineage, isn't it, of Geshe Kelsang. If you're serious, maybe that's a point, isn't it? If you're serious, people need to ask themselves, how serious am I about this? Or am I just trying to find a pill to take in and to kind of like take the sorrow away? Yeah, let me tell you right now, the sorrow is going to stay with you for a long time. So you need to, and the only way to remove the sorrow is through developing virtue, and the only way to develop virtue is through meditating. And you really want to understand virtue. I mean, and that's another thing, isn't it? Virtue. But I think
it's an antiquated word.
Yes, exactly.
What would be a synonym? Some people wouldn't resonate with virtue.
I think the fact that people don't like these antiquated ideas or whatever, it's irrelevant for us. It's their problem. And
right, yeah. Virtue is a very precise word to use.
Absolutely. And I encourage my students, I tell them, well, virtue is a phenomenon, it is a main cause of happiness. If you understand it like that, virtue is a very beautiful word.
Yes.
So memorize these definitions.
Yes.
And if you memorize them and yeah, so no need to shy away from these. Just need to really, I think we just need to hold our own kind of like, we know what we're doing. We're happy with it.
Well, they're universal truths, so they resonate.
Exactly.
How many times have you taught a class And then a student comes up and says, how did you know what was going on in my life? And
Yes.
it felt like you were speaking directly to me. And that's so often the case. And I have experienced that
Yeah.
over and over and over again. It's
Yeah,
because
yeah.
these are truths.
Yes.
When you hear the truth, it's always going to resonate.
Truth is truth.
And
Yeah.
everything Buddha taught is the truth
Yeah.
based on personal experience. So
Yeah.
you're reading that section on samsara, and it's all bad news. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's all
Absolutely.
bad news. Like
Yeah.
life doesn't work out. Life is super
Yeah.
difficult. You're always going to have problems. And approached with, the right mind, I think it's really refreshing, because instead of this masking and like cover up, it's this constant cover up.
Yeah.
I'm wearing cover up right now. For all of those,
Yeah.
for those of you watching.
So do I.
You're welcome. I'm wearing cover up for you. Right? Or, there's just this constant covering up. And then
And
you
that's
show
why
up
I love-
somewhere and someone's telling you the truth.
Exactly. It's not covered up.
It's not covered up.
As it is.
And
'Cause
then
we
you can
know-
deal with it.
Yes, exactly. Because people know when they get the covered up version of
Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
or
It's like,
you
yeah.
know.
Oh, yeah. It's all swept under the rug. And then
Yeah.
you have this filth, dirt under the rug, and it's going to turn into mold. And then you're going to inhale the mold. And then you're going to get super sick. And then it's going to take years to recover. It's like,
Yeah.
let's just pull the rug up,
Yeah.
see what's going on,
And work
and
with it.
remove the dirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not even end up in a much worse situation. And like you said, it takes a lot of courage. I think it takes humility. I think it takes vulnerability, being uncomfortable. We have to be
Absolutely, yeah.
comfortable with being uncomfortable. And maybe that's why people don't like to meditate, because it is
Yeah.
very uncomfortable initially.
Absolutely. So
until
what
you
I
get
do,
to the good part.
what I do with my students, I do with them the first 5 minutes of silence, which is the most. I said to them, this will be the most difficult part of the meditation. And I say to them, you're going to sit quietly for 5 minutes. I'm not going to say anything. Good luck.
People start sweating immediately. I was one of those. I was a meta hater.
Yeah.
Like sweating profusely.
yeah,
like, can you just teach?
Yeah. No.
I love the teaching. I
Yeah.
hated the meditation.
Exactly. So I said to them,
It's like,
I know that you
writhing.
don't like it, but I'm sorry, this is good for you. You have to learn. If you cannot sit quietly for 5 minutes with yourself, you have a problem. So we're going to solve, and I said to them, don't worry, after 5 minutes, I start doing the guidance, and then,
did anyone leave ever?
no, not yet.
Okay, good.
No,
Not yet.
Not
Okay,
yet.
great.
Well, I'm waiting,
Good track record.
Yes.
I left. I just had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that 5 minutes. So what happens during those 5 minutes? Do you remember?
Nothing.
Well, for you, that first 5 minutes, silence, what was that like for you? Whenever, way back, whenever.
Way back. I mean, I actually remember when I used to
Tough.
be in Madhyamaka Center, and I would actually wait for the teacher to finish the meditation. In other words, I appreciate it. But you're talking about just now about the being comfortable with the with uncomfortableness, or
Yeah.
learning to accept that.
Yeah.
And I remember at one time, I remember thinking, when the meditation came to an end, I thought to myself, just before, when is it going to finish? When is it going to finish? And I remember that voice thinking, and I think to myself, that voice is your problem. You have to,
Wow.
that is what you need to change. I realized that I need to learn to be quiet, which goes through a process of uncomfortableness. And then, I mean, there's something to be said. I know the material, just like I was already a good musician. Okay, so you have to learn the material a little bit. As Charlie Parker said, you need to learn the chords and the notes and the tunes, and then forget them, and then play.
Yes.
All right. Same here. You need to learn all the outlines. You need to learn the essential meanings. You need to learn these things. You need to put them in your mind.
Technique.
The technique, and then sit quiet, and then go through the first initial uncomfortable phase. And then finally, it dies down. Finally it will die down, and then, I mean, this is. It depends on the day. I can't always do it because I don't always have the time. So sometimes I have to kind of like a little bit more induce the whole process. But often it's like, okay, now wait. You have all the knowledge already. I mean, outlines and things like that. Just wait. But of course, knowing that every meditation has an object, so I would want to end up in an object and would be aware of that it came from that attitude, just let your mind, and it's in the spirit of guidelines, and we need to use our own wisdom, but let the Buddhas and it's a lot of things coming together. And then when you can get the meditation like that, and you suddenly have an insight, you think to yourself, oh, of course. And unfortunately, most people don't have that. They don't reach that oasis inside their own mind,
I think we fight against our own mind. Like, you need to stop thinking. It's like trying to fight with the incoming tide.
Exactly, and you will never win.
You'll never win. So don't fight your mind.
Don't. Learn.
Navigate the surf. Surf the wave.
Exactly.
There's a path.
Exactly, yeah. And it goes back to the Dharma Protector. Trust. It's okay. Yeah. Slowly remove the layers of fears, because those layers of fears are just, in a sense, they're a hoax. They're just, you know what I mean?
That's a good word, hoax.
Yeah. Remember when I learned it when I was 13, I remember the teacher teaching us that word, hoax. I remember her. She had curly hair. English teacher.
She taught you the word hoax?
Yeah. We read from a book and she explained the word hoax. It's a good word, isn't it?
It's a good word.
So anyway, that's meditation, and we all need to love it.
Mm-hmm. So here we are 28 years later. You're a Buddhist monk. You teach meditation. And are you happy with the decision that you made, sitting on your suitcases, waiting to get picked up? Got the call to be in a really great band. It was a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
And that was really, the fork in the road, right?
Yeah.
Any regrets? You happy?
None whatsoever. No regrets. I'm very happy. Sometimes I regret I didn't do more meditation. Sometimes I regret the moments I didn't take to create more virtue. We can talk about that some other time. Yeah, no, that's my only regrets is, and I'm really working on it now, because I hope to reach the 70s and 80s, and I don't want to reach those days and looking backwards and thinking, why did you not do more of what you love anyway? It's like, I don't suffer from meditation. I love it, and I very much enjoyed everything, working with people, guiding people, introducing people to spiritual path. What a privileged existence I had,
honor. Yeah.
So really absolutely no regret in the quote unquote vocation point of view. A little bit regret on maybe I could have done some more things, like on a private or on a professional level, maybe a bit more memorization or a bit more meditation. But on the whole, I think it was not bad. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this conversation. We really appreciate it. And I look forward to having you back again.
Thank you
Sherab.
very much. Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Mm-hmm.